for some local papers, and I'm just going to basically go through that, um, and and we'll take it from there. There's some additions I will make which were not in that paper, in that article. But anyway, basically the Bharatiya Janata Party has introduced 3 black laws related to the agricultural industry in whole of India. Modi telling everybody that these laws are super duper and they're going to be really helpful to the farming fraternity. But really, nothing could be further from the truth. These laws put the farmers at the mercy of the corporate houses, which are set to destroy their livelihood. The farmers have understood the real threat these laws have on them and their workers associated with the agricultural industry. Punjab farmers and farm laborers, after months of protesting, blocking railways, toll plazas, corporate houses, corporate-run malls, and surrounding various BJP politicians in Punjab, after 2 months of that activity, the government was not shifting and was not showing any interest in their grievances. The farmers decided that they have to go to Delhi. So they gave a call, let's go to Delhi. And these farmers actually, they, in Punjab, they gathered 32 farming organizations, farmers unions, and they formed a collective movement, a collective organization that was going to lead the Punjab farmers. But before they gave this call of let's go to Delhi, they invited cooperations from farmers outside Punjab, so Haryana, Rajasthan, and in fact it became pan-India movement. And the call of let's go to Delhi came into fruition. The result of that was that Delhi was surrounded by farmers. It is untold. Nobody really knows the estimate of the number of tractors. Each tractor pulling 2 trolleys. One trolley, loaded with people. The second trolley is loaded with the rations and the blankets and the equipment they need for a long haul surrounding. Well, their intention was to actually go to Delhi, but they faced many obstacles. In Punjab, they were less harassed because Punjab is run by a Congress government, and the Congress government couldn't be seen to be anti-farmers because they were playing their political vote bank card. So the farmers had very little resistance or very little opposition from the Punjab government. However, when they went through Haryana, Haryana is a BJP-led government. They faced lots and lots of barricades. It was incredible the amount of the efforts the Haryana police went through to stop these processions of literally hundreds of thousands of farmers, in their tractors and cars and motorcycles and things like that. Barricades were very quickly removed. They were actually removed by the Haryani people, Haryani farmers, to make way for the Punjab people to come through, which was a fantastic thing to do. There was a real brotherhood amongst the peasantry, the farming community. And in fact, the farming community in Haryana announced that don't you worry about the barricades, we will sort them out for you. And this they did. And the Punjabi farmers went through, and they also had to break many barriers. They went through this. This is the first time in Indian history, I think, that when the barricades were being thrown away like toys, by the farmers. Their tractors were pulling them outside away. They adopted this the police adopted these tactics of creating craters in the roadways. you know 20, 30 foot, 10-foot deep craters. Or they were using, they were piling huge piles of mud in the way. But the farmers are used to dealing with muds and craters and boulders and things like that. So, this kind of obstacles was actually there were no obstacles to them. However, they faced, tear gases, they faced lathi charges, they faced water cannons and so forth. But eventually they actually ended up at the borders of Delhi. And they then decided that it is that they were going to camp. That they weren't going to be allowed to go any further. They will camp wherever out on the borders of Delhi. Now, so what are these laws that the farmers are really upset about? Presently, the farmers have the option of selling their produce at government regulated markets. They're called Agricultural Product Market Committee, APMC. So, and the government has agreed to buy the produce, the farming produce, at an agreed minimum support price. So the traders, the traders buy from these markets and then sell it on to the wholesale market. But what the government is now introduced with these new laws, if you actually read the laws, they're so legal jargon, very difficult for the common man to understand, really. So it's no point even me actually reading them out. But the essential thing was that they want to open up private markets alongside the government regulated markets. And this is all under the pretense that, well, we are providing much more choice for the farmers to sell. We're providing more markets, competition and all that kind of thing. And they're trying to convince the farmers that, their income will be doubled. And the farmers actually know that for a few years or so of these laws, their income will be doubled, because by doubling their incomes, and handing opening these markets, run in the interest of the corporates houses, the corporate houses will definitely give double the price for a few years or so. But by doing that, the government-run regulated markets will perish away, will wither away. And then when that happens, the farmers know that then they will be completely at the mercy of these corporate houses. And then let alone getting the minimum support price, even that will not be guaranteed, and they will be, shortchanged thereafter. So the farmers know that. And then the other argument which the government seems to be throwing at them is, no, we are trying to cut out the middleman. You can sell directly to the wholesalers, and therefore, why waste money by paying to the middleman? But the farmers say that these middlemen are actually service providers. They're not harmful to us. For one, they say that these traders provide us with quick and easy loans. They go to these traders, and they can, in the middle of the night, they can knock on their door and say, can I have a few thousand or few lakh rupees, so that I can go and buy the fertilizers, or I need this machinery, or need that, or my daughter needs to marry or something like that. So these traders actually provide a service, so according to the farmers, and so they are not a burden. They are actually a useful service provided to them. And as a result, and the traders know as well that, when these corporate houses take over the marketing, the traders themselves will lose their jobs as well. So here we have now a movement of the traders, the small bourgeoisie, the farmers, the landless laborers, all joining in together because they know that is actually a life and death struggle that they're having to face. Um, the, the, the other thing is that the state-run government regulated markets actually provide revenue, tax collections, So they on the sale of on when they buy from the farmers, farmers have to pay a tax, and that goes into the state revenue, which obviously the state uses for their social expenditure and that sort. But what the government has done, that the open markets which they have introduced, they will not be taxed, So the states will lose out their revenue, and this immediately puts the government regulated markets at a serious disadvantage, because who's going to want to pay taxes when they can actually go down the road or across the road and get a better price where they don't have to pay the taxes and things like that. So, but all these moves are actually designed to kill off the government regulated markets there. So what the farmers clearly see is that for a few years, okay, they will get double the prices for their products. But come a couple of years down the road, these corporate houses will have and have got the finances to open up huge warehouses, huge storage facilities, and in time they could actually store enough food that will see them through for another maybe 2 years. So come third or fourth year, the farmers will be told, we don't need your food anymore. We got plenty in hand. So what does the farmer do on that year? The farmer will be forced to sell at giveaway prices, or will get nothing for it. And that way the farmers will be, obviously their debts will not be paid, and they're going to be put into a situation where farming for them is no longer a viable situation, and they're going to have to sell the land. And the land will obviously be taken over by these corporate houses, and that way they will kill off the agricultural community as it exists now. And then the small farmers will be basically reduced to landless laborers themselves, and they will just become daily wage earners. And all this thing, and then obviously once that happens, the government's regulated, the government's minimum price for the products will be just thrown into the wind, and that will be that. So this is, when that happens, one can only imagine what, the plight of the laborers that currently work on the land for their, daily bread. So they will become, totally destitute, because there will be a flood of laborers wanting work. Right. So the having surrounded Delhi at most of the highways linking Delhi to the outside world, millions of farmers have actually, well, actually hundreds of thousands of farmers have actually or have sealed the Delhi altogether. And this sealing started on the 26th and 27th of November. I think now we have entered 15th or 16th day where Delhi has been surrounded. Um, and Delhi is becoming close to a standstill. On 8th of December, after they've started this boycotting of surrounding of Delhi, the Indian farmers decided to escalate this whole movement of theirs, and then on 8th of December they gave a Bharat, a nationwide lockdown, or they call it the national strike, in English, I guess, where they were joined by nearly all of the trade unions and trade union federations, um, and students and everything. So, I think one estimate I've seen that there were about 11, maybe 12 million participants in this national strike that happened on the 12th of December, and our whole of India came to a complete standstill. Um, so after this whole movement of the determination of farmers eventually forced the government to talk with the farmers. 6 meetings till now have been held with the government, and the government has now agreed to making extensive amendments to the laws, and they have even given real assurances that the minimum price support price for the produce will remain and will not be withered away. The farmers insist that the three farming laws and the proposed new electricity law, which actually is going to electricity at the moment is mostly state or central government funded. They are set to be privatized and given to corporate houses. At the moment, to support the minimum price for the produce, farmers get free electricity for their tubal wells, irrigations and things like that. And they know that will come to an end when this new electricity law comes in place. So the farmers want the three farming laws to be scrapped, as well as the new proposed electricity bill that is in the pipeline. And at the same time, they say that the minimum support price has to be guaranteed in law. Assurances are by word or even in writing are not good enough for them. So nothing less of scrapping the laws and guaranteed written law, giving them the minimum price. Nothing less than that will satisfy farmers. The farmers argued that the other thing the farmers have picked upon, which is quite very good, is that the farmers argued that the Indian constitution says that agriculture is a state matter. And introducing these laws by the central government is actually a non-constitutional act, and that they are violating the constitution because agriculture is a state matter. So there is a deadlock between the farmers and the government, and they see this, and which is very true actually. They see these laws as breaking up the federal structure of India, and thereby a step further into killing the democratic setup guaranteed by the constitution. And they seem to have done that on many, and there seem to be a whole number of measures which the central government has done in breaking up the federal structure. We have seen what they have done in Kashmir. You know, they have basically rubbished their constitution and brought the Kashmir into the fold of the Union territory. They have the Ladakh. They have, you know, they're running that from the center. They are not even proposing a local democratic setup there. You know, they have introduced this GST, which is a general service tax. So now the states are no longer, well, the states collect the taxes, but they have to give all the collected taxes to the center, and then the center decides, you know, how much portion to give back to the states. And in fact, this year, you know, the states have given the taxes that were collected to the state, to the central government, and the central government is saying, because of Corona, because of this, because of that, we just cannot afford to give you your share of the taxes. And now government is telling the states to go and get a loan to see themselves through this year. So here again, you know, we have this breaking of the federal structure, and putting the states at the mercy of the central government. This is happening in education. This is happening in all sorts of other areas, you know, of you know, daily life there. So here we have a deadlock, and the farmers have said that they will carry on with their agitation. They have announced to escalate their struggles. They will seal the remaining link roads to Delhi. I think by tomorrow they're going to be sealing off the last remaining link road, which is Rajasthan. They have again announced that they will start blocking the rails and rail tracks. All toll plazas will be blocked and occasionally opened, and they will be opened free of charge to the public. Boycotts of Ambani and Dani products, malls, SIM cards is now a call which they have given. And they're going to mobilize additional people to surround Delhi, and then they want to actually, you know, increase, you know, perhaps, you know, 750,000 people already surrounding Delhi into much larger figures than that. So the additional, just one last thing before I finish, is that the additional demand the farmers have made, which I'm very pleased with, is that they are demanding the release of all democratic rights activists, writers, poets that have been arrested under the draconian you know, Unlawful Activities Prevention Act. So that is another of their demands, which they will insist that the government honors. Thank you very much.
Okay, now let's start a discussion. Abu has raised the hand.
Hello.
Hello.
Is there any solidarity extended, the farmers extended to the anti-CAA protesters?
Who?
The Muslim protesters against the citizenship bill.
Well, in India itself.
Yeah.
Well, this is no longer a Punjab or farmers movement. This is now has become a totally people's movement. So the wonderful thing about it is that there are no caste divides. Every caste are united on this, apart from obviously the Hindutva sections. Muslims, Sikhs, you know, Hindus are all united in this. There are mosques that are providing food, you know, daily food to the farmers that are, you know, camping outside India. The gurdwaras are providing, you know, daily food. They have mountains of food. You know, the food that they brought with them to last them for 6 months, that hasn't been touched. You know, the trolleys are still full of that, and because the local community, you know, irrespective of their religion or caste, have absolutely been for wonderful hosts to these farmers, protesting farmers. So it is absolutely a people's movement. It is no longer a farmers movement. The Indian farmers I've heard from outside, you know, UK, Canada, America, Australia, New Zealand is absolutely phenomenal. You know, there seems to be no shortage of funds uh, going to the farmers' cause back at home. You know, we know that in Britain, was there 40 odd MPs have lobbied the government, saying that they must make a statement on in support of the farmers. Trudeau has said that he will stand by the farmers' demands. So there is in America, the senators have spoken. So there is a huge international support on this, and this truly is a historic, largest human protest, you know, in history. So you know, it is really phenomenal what's going on there. It's amazing.
And also, Boris Johnson said India should speak to Pakistan to solve this problem.
You know, I think,
Naim and then Abu.
what
Yeah.
what
Go on, like finish what you were saying.
no, I finished. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I mean, how is this going to end? I mean, I think basically is a strategic thing for the Modi government to actually capitalize on agriculture, isn't it? It's turning it in.
I think the Modi has cornered himself very, very badly. He has clearly shown to be a what do you call it? You know, in the hands of the corporates.
Yeah.
And what they say is what he is doing. And I think this cannot sustain, because the movement is very, very wide and wide ranging, and almost everybody, apart from the Hindu bigots, are in support of this movement. Whether even the police is at actually is set, you know, standing back, they're not really doing anything. And I think if the police were to be launched with lathi charges, they are going to be so heavily outnumbered by the farming community. And I think the farmers know that this might happen. So this is why, you know, the 1 million people already surrounding Delhi, they want that to be increased, you know, many fold, so that the police will be totally outnumbered. And I think, and eventually, I don't think that the government has any other alternative but to take back the laws and meet their demands. But you know, fascist government behaves in fascistic ways, so we don't really know, you know, what they are capable of doing. Certainly, they have tried to label the movement as Pakistani, you know, instigated, or China instigated, or Khalistini instigated. They've certainly tried all these tricks. But the farmers are actually extremely well organized. You know, in all these camps they have, I don't know, maybe 10, 12 camps they have around Delhi. They have organized, you know, patrols. You know, there are teams of 5, 6 people going around in their small areas and making sure that there are no bad elements, you know, creating trouble. And you know, so they're very well organized. and they're very, very disciplined. And normally, if they are told by the leadership that this is what you're going to do, and the farmers will not take any other steps without further instructions. So it's a real standoff. The government, I think, has bitten more than it can chew. But let's see how the things will work out.
Right.
Yeah. James, yeah.
I've seen statistics which suggest that the average farm income in Punjab is more than 3 times the average in India. And I was just wondering, in that sense, whether there's as much support in relation to the prices that you can sell produce from other states where the income from agriculture is much lower, and it's probably mainly subsistence agriculture rather than growing crops for sale. Is the support widespread from other states as well as the north?
Well, there is a huge widespread support from all over the other states as well. The statistics I think I read was that the average income for a farmer is around about 80 to 90 thousand rupees. So which is to them it is actually a subsistence income. They are not rich farmers at all. A lot of these farmers are owning 1, 2, 3, 5 acres of land, which which actually demands a lot more work than actually it returns. Then these farmers are actually deeply indebted in loans. And over the last 2 decades rather, something like 400,000 farmers have committed suicide. So, any suggestion that farming is a profitable, rich business is actually not true.
Could I just ask, it appeared to us here that other states were quite slow in joining this protest. Is that just because there was less coverage of other states joining, or were they sort of slow to join?
Actually, I think the media portrays it that way, and that's not necessarily true. However, it has to be said that this, Punjab and Haryana have always maintained this government mandis, government regulated markets, more so than any other state. Bihar used to have this system, but Bihar lost this system maybe 8 or 9 years ago. West Bengal never even actually had these government regulated markets, and so these government regulated markets are practiced, to different extents, I would say, up and down the country, and therefore I think that's what probably why the farmers in Punjab and Haryana, they had a lot more to lose, and they came out very, very strongly against these laws. But eventually they succeeded in convincing the rest of the farming community in the other states that this is corporatization. This is corporatization of everything. Now they've corporatized they're going to corporatize the education system, health system. They're going to corporatize the railway system. They've got their eyes on corporatizing the telephone industry, and all sorts of things like that. And now they're actually going to corporatize. They're going to take away the land, but people, they find is essential. If you lose land, you lose everything. And the farmer understands that. So yes, there has been perhaps, although I'm not too sure that's how true it really is. It seems that other farmers have not, well, have been delayed in joining. But really, if you looked at what's happened on the 8th General Strike Day, the people as far as field as Karnataka, Kerala, everywhere there were shutdowns, and now because of the lack of transportations from as far afield as Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, they're not able to get to the Delhi borders as quickly as Punjab, which actually is on border, or Haryana is actually on the border of Delhi. And UP is on the border of Delhi. So they are able to get to Delhi much quicker than other remote states.
Lake, do you think that this is the law? I just read it in that Preetham Singh's article, which I sent around, that the law says that agriculture needs transformation, which actually means shift the workers, because now too many people are dependent on the agriculture. So you have to reduce that. So this is like, what they did in UK centuries ago, called the primitive accumulation. So get rid of the people so that they will come to the cities and become workers, which will depress the wages, which will help the industrialization.
I think the farming community is facing the same problems, whether you're a farmer in Punjab, in India, Haryana, or whether you're a farmer in Canada. The farming community in Canada is not making their ends meet either. The farming community in the UK is not making their ends meet. And I think the British farmer were used to be very heavily subsidized. Whether they are subsidized to the same extent they used to be, I think that's is probably not so. Is not no longer the case. But what I think the American farmers are hugely subsidized, and this is, I think, the Americans' corporatization policies of subsidizing the American farmers and flooding the world market with their food, so that they can keep their prices. They can dictate the prices to be low, which means the American Indian farmers, the African farmers can't compete on the prices of subsidized prices with the American put out on the market. And I think this is a whole. It's a global project of monopolizing food production. And once a body or a government or a corporate monopolizes food, then virtually you have created an empire, and you have created a neo-colonial system. And this is what the whole, I think, the ethics, if that's the right word, this privatization, globalization is all about. Yes, Paul.
Hi.
Don't shout, don't shout.
Hello there.
Yeah.
Thank you, Alec.
Don't shout.
Very helpful. Couple of points which you may know of. To what extent is the demonstration and protest interfaith based, to include Muslims? And to what extent are farm labourers involved in this protest, as opposed to small landowners, small farmers? So is there a class dimension, and is there an interfaith dimension in the overall protest movement?
It is well recognized by the farming community that farmers just don't, not all farmers wear turbans, right? Although you will see in Haryana and Punjab, farmers wearing turbans and things like that. And one gets the impression that this is just the farm landowners and the Sikhs that are at the forefront of this. This is actually not true. The southern part of Punjab is very Muslim orientated, very Muslim, high levels of Muslim community. And in the UP, there's a big section of Muslim community. So, so they are doing their bit in sealing of Delhi. In Haryana, there are more Hindus farmers that are up in arms more than the Sikhs. Well, in other words, there's a bigger majority of Hindus protesting in Haryana. So it is a very cross divide across religions. So it is, and that is a very thing. And the other thing which I have said is that it is also cross castes. Normally you will find that the landowner would be a Jat, a higher caste, and the workers that work on his fields will be Dalit. But you will find that in these, the reports I have had, and I phoned back home as well, because I'm sort of from a Dalit background. I'm inquiring into these things. What are the Dalits doing? Are they with it? And apparently trolleys full of Dalits are out there. And the farmers actually giving them free lifts or taking them with free food and things like that. So farmers know that without the landless peasants, they cannot win. So there is a huge united front that is in place here.
Thank you.
Now you've just put it on.
So, Lek, I have one question. Yeah. So this one problem with the Indian agriculture, Punjab agriculture also, is that the productivity is very low because the lands are very small. So this many economics in India are saying that minimum support price is keeping that, not from making it into bringing them together. So what is the solution? I was thinking that there should be a cooperative farming. Many farmers, small farmers should come together and introduce technology to increase the productivity, because as you say, majority of the farms are small, marginal, medium, and small. So they can have a tractor, but they cannot have a harvester, the more sophisticated machines, more sophisticated things. So productivity is very low. So what corporates are going to do is the same.
I just want to say,
same thing. They are going to bring all this land together and increase the productivity.
There's two things I want to say though. And the one thing is that in India there is this law. I think it came out in the 50s or something like that. That all government-owned land around the villages, 1/3 of that government-owned land must be given to on a lease basis, must be given to the scheduled caste and scheduled tribes. And in law that existed, But in practice, what happens is the big landowner will put up a Dalit to bid for land, and then the landowner will start actually tilling that land. So he uses the Dalit as a proxy to bid for that land. So in papers, you know, the land is being tilled, 1/3 of the land is being tilled by the Dalits, but in practice that was not being the case. And there has been a huge movement in the last 10 years in southern part of Punjab, where, you know, the Dalits have said, we will not let, you know, the land to be tilled by the big landowners. And there have been lots of fights, and there's been lots of struggles, and people have got hurt and people have got killed in that. But eventually what has happened, now we have something like 100 villages in that area where, you know, the Dalits have stood their grounds, they tilled the land, they bidded for the land, they tilled the land, and they are running that farming as a cooperative, right?
Oh.
So, you know, the Dalits will get together, the women get together. Now they've started their collective animal farming. They have started their collective, you know, they will buy one tractor to do so many villages. So exactly what you're saying, that this is what's happening. But I mean, this is happening with the 1/3 land which is guaranteed by the constitution to the Dalit community. Now, in other areas where there are small landowners, like you say, Thomas, there are, you know, nearly all the Kisan unions, the farmers union, they are advocating, they are campaigning, you know, continuously to join, you know, small landowners into one collective, you know, so that the one village will have one tractor which will do all the land, you know, plow all the land. The tractor will be given free of charge, because in other words, they are trying to introduce this cooperative farming, so that way it becomes far more viable than you know, small landowners, you know, helping themselves and farming themselves. So that is the move which is being encouraged by the left-wing farming organizations rather than by the government. And I think it is only, you know, the left-wing forces that are pushing that agenda. Brilliant. Well, that's not a brilliant thing. What these farmers have insisted that this agitation, these protests are led by the farmers and farming unions themselves. They have been very, very clear that they will not allow any political party to share their stage, because they don't want Congress to be speaking on their stages. They don't want CPI, CPM, who are mainstream political parties, because they don't want to give the government the excuse that, you know, the farmers are being politicized. So the CPI are obviously supporting the farmers. They you know, at a standoffish basis. So, you know, they're organizing their own, you know, support, but they are not allowed to be at the center stage on you know, sharing, you know, in the negotiations or anything like that, which actually is, I think, you know, it really reflects the matureness of the farming community, farming leaders, because they know that these guys will, you know, speak on stages and pretend to be, you know, real farm community supporters, but in the end, you know, these people are actually corporate supporters. You know, you can see what CPI, CPM did in Bengal. You know, that they started supporting the corporate houses. You know, the Tata factories in West Bengal and things like that. And so the farmers are much more mature now. They have no faith in any parliamentary political party to take their case forward. So they have taken it on their own hands. The one disturbing video I saw today, I'm not sure how true it is, but this was a video on the highway linking Delhi to the Uttar Pradesh. This video showed miles long convoy of the army heading towards Delhi. If that is true, then God knows, or who knows how things might develop. If the army is deployed to disperse the farmers, things could get whether it's true or not, I don't know. It's, as far as I'm concerned, it's unverified. But the person who was filming it is actually a well-known national figure amongst the Dalits. And he was saying, look, this is what's happening. Convoys of armies are going towards Delhi. So that is quite worrying if that actually happens.
Okay, Abu.
There are. Sorry.
Abu wanted to say something.
Yeah, I got a question, which if anybody would like to answer, is that how are they able to organize a big strike in India, but in this country, they can't organize general strikes? Anyone could answer that.
People are organizing small demonstrations there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, there has been demonstrations all over UK. Yes, the last week it was quite big outside India House. But there are protests. There was 2-mile car rally in I think it was in Vancouver, or was it Edmonton in Canada yesterday. So so these protests are happening all over the world. The unfortunate thing in UK is that it's very the Palestinians are very vociferous, and I think these Palestinians are probably doing more harm to the farming cause than help. But it's a free country. Sometimes the Pakistani, they're finding fraternities with the Pakistanis, which doesn't really help because it seems to be, I think it diverts from the real farming issues. So they tend to get more publicity than they deserve, in my view.
Okay, if there is no question, we can wind up our discussion.
No.
You didn't want to ask. Okay.